Welcome back to Clarity Under Pressure. I'm Lisa Larson, and I work with leaders, founders, and high performers to build clarity under pressure before reactivity takes control. Today, I want to talk about something that quietly drives mental exhaustion for a lot of smart, capable people. It's the tendency to treat every decision like it carries the same weight. Maybe you've experienced this for yourself. What should I respond to first? Should we change this strategy? Do I need to hire? Should I leave this role? Do I need to restructure the team? What template should I use for this presentation? And what should I make for dinner? At first glance, these decisions seem very different. But when you're mentally exhausted, your brain starts processing all of them with the same sense of urgency. And that's where the problem begins. A few years ago, I remember sitting at the end of a long work week, mentally exhausted. The kind of exhaustion where your brain just feels fried. I'd spent long hours over the course of the week making decisions for clients, employees, projects, budgets, and priorities. I'd sat in seemingly endless number of meetings where it felt like nothing really got decided. By the time I closed my laptop for the day, someone asked a simple question: "What's for dinner?" And I felt completely stuck. Not because the dinner decision was complicated, but because my decision making capacity was depleted. The problem wasn't the question. The problem was that my brain had stopped distinguishing between what mattered and what didn't. Everything felt important, urgent, and deserved deep thought. That's one of the hidden drivers of cognitive overload. We fail to distinguish between the decisions that carry low consequences versus the ones that are high consequence. The ones that are easily reversible versus the ones that are irreversible, or ones that have a short temporary outcome versus a long term impact. When we don't stop to categorize decisions correctly, we often end up applying the wrong level of thinking to the wrong problems. We can overthink decisions that barely matter, and sometimes we underthink the decisions that could shape the next 5 years of our lives. Here's a question I ask leaders all the time: how much clarity does this particular decision actually require? Because clarity isn't a fixed state, it's contextual. The amount of reflection a decision deserves should increase based on its impact. Things like hiring a leader, choosing to partner with another company, taking on significant debt, changing careers, or restructuring a team. Those types of decisions deserve thoughtful evaluation. But things like choosing between two coffee mugs, changing fonts or colors in a presentation, or rewriting the same email 5 times before sending it just doesn't require the same mental energy. Yet, when we're overloaded, those low impact decisions can consume enormous amounts of mental energy. I've seen organizations do the same thing: meetings about meetings, decisions that could have been an email, review after review, weeks debating decisions that could have been tested and learned from in 48 hours. Sometimes the cost of indecision becomes greater than the risk of simply just moving forward. This brings us to one of the most important distinctions leaders can learn. Some decisions are reversible, others are not. If a decision can be adjusted, tested, modified, or improved later, perfection isn't required. Momentum often creates more clarity than more analysis. You learn by moving and you gather information through action. But irreversible decisions, they deserve a different standard, not based on fear or perfection, just better thinking. These are decisions where you need to separate facts from assumption, look at the downstream consequences, challenge your own emotional state, and create enough space to think clearly instead of reactively. Exhaustion changes how we evaluate decisions. When you're burned out, overloaded, emotionally flooded, or running on too little recovery, your brain starts prioritizing relief over accuracy. And when that happens, you don't necessarily make the best decision. You make the decision that makes the pressure stop And those are two very different things. One of my favorite reflection question is this: am I seeking clarity or am I seeking relief? That question alone has changed countless decisions for me because sometimes we tell ourselves we just need to make a decision, but what we actually want is for the discomfort to end. But permanent decisions made from temporary exhaustion often create long term consequences. So, here's a simple decision filter you can use this week. Ask yourself, can this decision be reversed? What happens if I'm wrong? Will this matter in a week, a year, or 5 years? And the big one for me: am I mentally capable of evaluating this with my full attention right now? Sometimes the decision doesn't require more data. Sometimes it just requires a pause, reset, maybe a walk in nature, a good night's sleep, or a conversation with someone you trust. The goal isn't to overanalyze everything, it's to allocate your cognitive energy appropriately. Some decisions deserve rapid execution, and others deserve your full attention. Knowing the difference is a performance skill. For leaders, it's a critical one and sets the tone for your team. When everything feels equally important, decision quality collapses. Priorities blur, execution slows, activity becomes reactive, and exhaustion starts masquerading as high performance. The strongest leaders aren't necessarily the fastest decision makers. They're the ones who know which decisions require rigor, which ones require experimentation, and which ones simply need to move forward. That's where clarity lives. It's what allows people to perform at a high level without burning themselves out in the process. Thanks for joining me on Clarity Under Pressure. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone else who might be carrying too many decisions right now. And remember, not every decision deserves the same amount of your energy. Protect your clarity for the decisions that matter most.